The United States is facing defeat, ruin, embarrassment in Afghanistan, a war that has now gone on for 20 years, cost a lot to 2,500 or so American lives, a real tragedy. And at the very least, one would expect in the face of this some solemnity. But instead, we're getting a kind of farcical silliness coming from all places in the Biden administration. Here's a classic example from Press Secretary Jen Psaki. Listen.
The Taliban also has to make an assessment about what they want their role to be in the international community.
Their role in the international community? Before I address this head on, which I intend to, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in Afghanistan. So the Taliban have, with a blitzkrieg speed reminiscent of the Nazis, moved north and moved south, and they're taking over one city after another. They took over this third largest city, Herat, a couple of days ago. Now they claim there are reports, unconfirmed but most likely true, that they've taken over Kandahar, another huge and important city in the south. And apparently, U.S. intelligence now predicts that they're about 90 days from taking over Kabul. And remember, Kabul has been the center of the Afghan army. That's where the United States was based. We were supposedly training the Afghan army to be fully capable of handling the Taliban. This has been a military failure, a failure of leadership at the highest level. And the American public has been grossly misled all these years about what's going on. Now, as the Taliban take these towns and cities, they capture all kinds of American equipment. They capture American mortars, American Humvees, American pickup trucks, American weapons. Apparently, these have just been abandoned. This is taxpayer paid for very expensive equipment, and we're turning it over to our enemies, the Taliban. Let's remember that Biden, just last month, in July, was asked about Afghanistan, and he said, quote, "The jury is still out, but the likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely." And I'm sure here's Biden sitting around now just basically thinking that all of this is just kind of unexpected development. Come on, man, this is not what they told me. So this is the goofballism that we're dealing with here. Now, the United States, by the way, having pulled out most of its 3,500 force in Afghanistan, is literally sending 3,000 troops back. Why? This time not to fight the Taliban. We've kind of given up on that. To evacuate people from the U.S. Embassy, to evacuate some of the Afghans who have been, I guess, closely collaborating with us. And we have to think about who these Taliban are. Let's just do a little bit of a memory card here. The Taliban, the name Taliban, comes from the word student. Now, it's a little bit of a metaphorical term because some of these Taliban guys are like 80 years old. They're not students in the normal sense. The head of the Taliban, by the way, this guy, Malawi Akhundzada, absolutely, primitive, savage, tribal leader, vicious guy. And his main deputy is the son of Mullah Omar. Remember, Mullah Omar is the guy who invited the 9/11 hijackers to come. He's the former ruler of the country. His son is apparently now one of the top guys in the Taliban. And these are guys who ban television, they ban music, they ban movies. They don't want women to be educated above the age of 10. I think until 10, they think it's okay. But after that, I think they think a little too much knowledge, little bit destructive for women. They also go around the country knocking down ancient statues. Remember the old Buddhist statues that they all pulled down, the Bamiyan Buddha? So these are fanatical Sharia types. They make even the ordinary Muslim radical look like kind of a rhino, kind of a moderate. And now I want to turn to the U.S. reaction because it is so pathetic, it's so preposterous. First of all, this is coming out of the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. "We strongly condemn the Taliban's unlawful detention of several members of the Afghan government. We urge the immediate release, blah, 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 blah." And you've got to realize that when you lose a fight on the battlefield, you can't go around making these stupid, pompous statements. "We demand this." You don't demand anything. It's the Taliban is calling the shots. They're the ones who are going to be putting forward demands. So this is utterly unbelievable. In the process of evacuating the embassy, these people are issuing pompous proclamations, like typing out a press release before I run to the helicopter and get the heck out of there, Saigon style. And then the State Department says, Taliban, you better watch it because, the United States may withhold recognition from the Taliban. What? As if oh yeah, you're not going to recognize me. We're really worried about this one. Maybe we should rethink our strategy, guys. And then Jen Psaki, quote, and you heard the quote, the Taliban has to make an assessment about what they want their role to be in the international community. Now, I'm just kind of imagining some sort of Taliban guy's reaction to this and their incomprehension. Remember, you're dealing with people, from the 11th century. I guess the United States' goal was to try to move Afghanistan into the 13th century, which would have been an improvement, but it's a failed project, and we're going to basically go back to the 11th century. So I can just see this Taliban guy kind of listening, holding his rifle, listening to Jen Psaki. He's probably thinking, the international community. Yeah, I'll show up in the international community as long as I can bring my weapons, I can bring my animals, I can do some drug dealing on the side to collect some money for my Taliban buddies. I want to make sure that before I leave, I behead everybody in the room. That's extremely important. And then just to show my contempt for the whole process, I'm going to sort of take a crap on the floor before I get out of there. So this is the caliber of, I'm not going to criticize the Taliban. They are what they are. I'm actually going to fault the kind of bovine stupidity of the Biden administration, which has produced this mess. Now, look, Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan. And so I'm not condemning the decision to get out. I'm condemning the way it was done. The complete, this is sort of the most dishonorable retreat since the collapse of U.S. forces in Saigon. It's lasting defeat for U.S. foreign policy. It's going to embolden our adversaries in Russia and China. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, well, listen, this is probably the fruit of the woke military. Yeah, General Milley, let's have some more men in high heels. Let's have some more men, listening to Ibram Kendi and worrying about the transgender bathrooms. This is the U.S. military's priority. It even comes out in official communiques. So other countries are building up their fighting forces, but when a ragtag tribal army in Afghanistan can defeat the most powerful military in the world, that's a sign that something has gone deeply wrong, not over there, but right over here.